Hello, what is happening? What is up? What is good? My name is Grant, aka Dutty Grant, and I am just starting to flesh out this YouTube channel, so I figured why not start at the start. I'm going to be giving you kind of a studio tour rig rundown today, and before we get into all of this fun stuff, I just figure I'd give you a quick background on myself. I've been working professionally in music since about 2013. I got my start in Nashville, Tennessee, where I owned and operated a recording studio. It was called Last Wave Productions. It was a cool little spot just south of downtown Nashville. Ran that place for about 5 years. I had a couple venues in there too, which was really fun. And I had a reggae record label of all things in Nashville, Tennessee to have. That's the route I decided to go. And then after about 5 years, things got pretty crazy with Nashville being Nashville. I will spare you the saga and how I feel about that town, maybe for another video. But I moved out of Nashville in 2017. I was spending a lot of time on the road. I do live sound as well as studio work. And I was touring with a band called All Them Witches pretty heavily. Kind of didn't see the need to be on the road or be in Nashville where I'm paying a crazy high cost of living. So moved back up to the Midwest. I lived in Cincinnati for almost a year and then home based out of Indianapolis for about 3 years. And now I'm headquartered in Denver, Colorado, and I love it here. It's been really good. I've only been here since July, so still kind of getting into the scene, but that's pretty much that. I do a lot of different things with music. Obviously, I have my home studio, which is my favorite setup that I've had since probably I had my studio in Nashville. It's been really awesome. I do a lot of remote sessions here, which I'll get into later. I mix and master for clients as well as for my own stuff. I have a project called Bridges. I have my own solo stuff. It's a lot of like hip-hop, instrumental, producer music stuff. And I also do sound. I tour with a band now called King Buffalo. I do front of house for those guys, and it's been really fun. Eventually I'll do a rig rundown with all the new gear that we just got. We have a really awesome setup on the road now, so at some point expect to see that. But trying to keep it brief because this is a video about gear and not really about what I do. There'll be plenty of stuff more in depth about what I do, but we'll get into the gear here and I'll show you guys kind of what I'm working with and my favorite setup I've ever had. So let's get it going. All right, so just kind of walking into the room here. It's in my basement, so the ceilings are actually like crazy low, which I was slightly concerned about at first, but it ended up working out really well. Carpeted floors. I was didn't know how things were going to work. I have all these panels left over from the studios that I've had over the years. It's just enough to treat this room, just some classic Owens Corning, the yellow stuff, 701 in the frames. It works. This room is crazy linear. There's not a lot of nodes. There's no flutter echoes or anything. It's really awesome, especially because I've been doing a lot of mastering lately, so a lot of detail and clarity in here. I can really get in depth on the mixes and masters, which has been awesome. So yeah, I guess we'll start here real quick. This is my world's smallest control vinyl rig ever. I used to spin a lot back in the day in Nashville, especially when we were doing the sound system stuff. Getting back into it, I didn't want to go the controller route, so these little Neumann KH120a scratches. Got a pair of those with the Mkii AMX. It's like the smallest rig that you can run control vinyl with. I actually run, instead of a laptop, I like using my iPad, which is on this stand over here. I use like DJ Pro, I think is the software, and it lets me do control vinyl, and it is hilarious and awesome, and I love it. I'll probably do some more turntablism DJ related stuff at a later date. But yeah, it's really cool and hilarious and fun and small, which is, for a small footprint, I can't really ask for much more. I like to keep it simple, so it's pretty cool. Down here, I've got, of course, my classic OP1, can't go without it, and one of the best partners for that guy, SP303. There'll be tons of more in-depth stuff coming on the channel about this stuff later. I love this rig, it's amazing. So yeah, we'll get into that stuff later. But moving down, obviously just a bunch of road cases there. And the desk, so This desk is a output platform. I really dig it. It was kind of the solution to everything that I needed, especially with the setup that I'm running now. It's incredible. I love it. It does all the stuff I need to do. One thing to note as well, let's see if I can get this. I'm pretty far off the wall, which was the goal with this setup, kind of being more in the middle of the room. My last setup, I was against the wall and it was kind of a nightmare, but enough about that. We'll kind of start at the top here and work our way down. So the monitors I'm running are Neumann KH120s. I've had these things since my studio in Nashville. I love them. They're incredible. They do everything I need them to do. I've learned them. That's kind of all that really matters when it comes to monitors. And then of course the IK Multimedia iLouds, good for just reference, real world reference. I take them out when I'm doing mobile recording a lot, just to have a smaller footprint. Computer screen is a computer screen, monitor, whatever you want to call it. One thing that I do run, which is really cool, is on my iPad. This is an older iPad, so I can't use Sidecar, but I use Luna Display. And it's really great. It still has all the touchscreen functionality. And it's a good third-party way to kind of make that happen. So Luna Display on the iPad gives me a second window without cluttering up my desk with another monitor. So that's pretty awesome. And then kind of working our way down in the rack here, I got an Apollo X6 and a twin that's kind of tucked underneath the desk. I don't really need to ever touch it. Mainly that is because I got this guy here, the SSL SiX. This is kind of, this and the X6 were the latest additions to the studio, and it's pretty much unlocked my whole workflow with making it exactly how I like to run everything without having to spend a bunch of time patching and readjusting every time I want to do something differently. It allows me to integrate all of this stuff in. Normally it's all hooked up, but I've been kind of reconfiguring stuff in here, but it allows me to just come in, sit down, and work without having to spend a bunch of time fooling around. This thing sounds incredible. I use it as my monitor controller, and I sum a lot of mixes through it. I run stuff through it for mastering. It's got the G-Bus compressor. It's an amazing piece of gear, and I literally could not live without it at this point, so pretty awesome. And then moving over here, I got my Behringer X-Touch. It's just a pretty standard control surface. It works really well. I also have a Behringer XR18, which I'll use for some throw and go live recordings. And if I ever have to do a quick and dirty live mix, I'll bring it. I actually used to use it on tour with King Buffalo until we got our tour package, which is a M32 and DL32 and all that fun stuff, which I'll show you guys at some point in the future, near future. Do a rig rundown with that, because it's been really hard to find all the information on that thing, just in terms of running it with a X32 rack and in-ears. So I'm gonna make a video of that at some point here in the future, kind of unlock some information that's taken me forever to piece together on that stuff. And then let's see, you gotta have the mechanical keyboard, because there's nothing more satisfying than clacking around. Yeah, I like that stuff. I'm a nerd, if you couldn't already tell. And then let me see if I can move this back a little bit so I can show you kind of what's going on in here. So let me move my camera. So I have it's pretty hard to see, but I do have a universal audio satellite, a quad core, just more horsepower with the UA plugins. And then this mess of cable nightmare back here, my Mac Mini is actually rack mounted in there backwards so I can get at all the ports. And that's pretty sweet. I've really been at least liking the functionality. I don't want to start bashing stuff in the first video I make, but it's the newest spec, 2018 Mac Mini, pretty hot rodded out, and I'm very underwhelmed with the performance. I don't think I'm gonna buy an Apple computer after this phase of owning one. I've just had a lot of problems with it. For the money and the spec, it's just not really keeping up too much, so kind of is what it is. It's working now for what I'm doing, but it definitely leaves a lot more to be desired. So anyways, whatever. That's enough about that. So on the desk, I opted for the keyboard drawer because I have a MIDI keyboard, just a Akai MPK 249 gets it done. Needs a little work, actually. The keys have been sticking down here, so I have to pull that thing apart and do a little cleanup. And then over here is kind of my bread and butter. Been a big MPC guy for a long time, and the Live has been an incredible addition to the studio. You're gonna see a lot of videos in the future with this guy. I do almost everything, all my like writing, arranging on it. And because I tour so much, this thing comes with me on the road and allows me to do really the bulk of my writing is actually while I'm on tour, just sitting in the van or killing time on a day off or whatever. So totally standalone. It's the MPC Live, the first edition, the new one with the speaker on it. I don't think they added anything else other than that, and maybe a couple connections in the back, but yeah, this is kind of if my brain was a piece of hardware, it would be this thing. So there'll be a lot of videos of me doing some workflow stuff with this, and just the fun stuff that I like to do with it. So yeah, so that's that. And then underneath the desk, I have a Presonus Temblor sub. It's a 10-inch sub. It works. Yes, those are racing pedals because, again, I'm a huge nerd and get pretty nasty on the racing sims, but the sub itself is fine. It's really overpowered, but I do like that it has this foot switch so I can bypass it. And yeah, that thing's like honestly barely on, but it throws enough low end. It gives me enough extension while I'm mixing to let me know what's going on with the low end. And yeah, that's kind of everything going on with the desk. I guess the last thing, quick flex, I do have the new Xbox for when I'm not mixing. It's nice to just pop that thing up and play some games and kill some time. And yeah, so that's kind of what's going on here. And yeah, obviously, if you have any questions about any of this stuff, hit me with a comment. I will definitely respond and give you more details. I'm trying to be as thorough as possible without, totally wasting more of your time than I need to. Another great thing for the studio, obviously you got to have the couch. It folds down into a bed, so if I have someone from out of town crashing, obviously it makes it really easy. And one of the most important things in the studio behind my TV here, which gets moved, is the dartboard. You got to have activities. I'm all about the activities in the dartboard. Even though it's a low ceiling, super fun just to kind of kill some time after a session or just to take a break from working. It's fun to have. So yeah, got to have the dartboard. All right, so there you have it. There's the quickest rundown I guess I could do without just totally boring you and talking out of my ass. It's really not a ton of stuff, but it does everything that I need it to do. I have this philosophy that I've been using for quite a while now. Basically, unless your gear is physically limiting what you can do as an engineer or as a creative, then you look at upgrading, changing, updating, whatever. But if everything you have works for what you're doing, there's really no point in buying that cool, shiny new, $2,000 piece of rack gear. Speaking of rack gear, I do have some more pre's and stuff tucked away in a rack just because this is obviously a post-production and arranging kind of space. I'm not tracking in this tiny room. So I do have some other pre's. I have like a Focusrite Clarett and a modded art stereo tube pre. You don't really need a lot these days, and with this setup I'm kind of out of stuff to add to it. I can do everything that I want to do without getting bogged down in wiring or workarounds and stuff like that. So eventually I think the last thing, and it's still, I would consider it more of a want than a need, but because I am doing so much mastering now, I will be adding at some point in the future, I'm not exactly sure when, I do want to get an SSL Fusion just to help with like my mastering, just to kind of step up the quality and bring a new piece in that's going to really set the masters apart from what I'm doing now. So that'll come eventually, but again, it's more of a want than a need. And if any of you guys have any questions or just want to say hello or want to ask me more about projects I've been doing and stuff, I'm going to try to really add a lot of content to this channel as time goes on here. But feel free to comment, shoot me a message, do whatever people do now to communicate. I know this will probably be on Reddit, so drop a comment there. And yeah, hit subscribe if you want to see what all is going to be coming out of this room and some cool stuff from tour in the coming months and years. I'm gonna really try to keep up with all this stuff, and I want to hear from you guys about whatever you're up to and whatever you think about what's going on here. So yeah, hopefully I'll hear from you guys, and stay tuned because there'll be some more content coming very soon. Peace.